Previously on.
Previously.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on.
Previously on the recap sequence.
Hey folks, welcome to the recap sequence. It's our end of year. I guess we'll call it a Christmas episode. There is some Christmas behind us. You can't really see it all that well.
Yep.
We have a Christmas tree. There's even a Christmas gift here on the table, and it's for me. But I can't open it till Christmas.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it'd be no better. I can't think of a better way to end it than by talking to our Marvel Senior Cinematic Movie correspondent. It's been a while since I've said it. Mr. Brent O'Hara, how are you, sir?
Doing great, guys. Yes, it's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah,
been
it
a
really
busy
has.
year.
It has.
It's been a busy year, but it's also funny because I was thinking about this coming over. I was like, we talked to Brent maybe 3-4 times. It just seemed like it was sporadically in there. You know, we talked to you at the beginning of 2024, and then of course East Coast Comic Expo. Once I think in the summertime, and then it's like we haven't talked to you since. And I'm looking ahead to 2025, and I'm like, is Brent going to be on like once a month with us from here on out? Is that how it's going to work?
Yeah, I think 2025 is going to be the year of Brent.
Yeah, you guys had a decent break from me this past year, and your audience probably needed it because
Well, it's funny that you say that, Brent, that the audience needed it, but I think because we had talked about this at the start of 2024, that it almost felt like we needed a break from Marvel, so to speak, because a lot of things didn't seem like it was really rolling. The train kind of sort of came off the tracks a little bit, and I know we had said at one point that, you know, it just felt like the Deadpool Wolverine movie was going to be that quote soft reboot almost, if you want, and it was more than a reboot because it just, you know, blew that thing out of the water. And here we are about to talk about Agatha All Along, which I think surprised a lot of people by how good it really was.
it was really strong, and it was. A lot of folks, you remember when WandaVision first came out, a lot of folks weren't really sure how to take it because it was strange that, they didn't get necessarily how the TV shows until you got through 3 or 4 episodes in and you were beyond the episodes. And
Yeah.
then you started the modern stuff mixed in and the story of all that, which is really, really terrific and a lot of fun. It's neat. This one kind of starts in a similar way, right? There's a bit of a TV show, cop drama, show, and and then that kind of gets infiltrated, and then it unfolds into this remarkable story. As much like we learn about Wanda, we pick up from where Wanda was left in the MCU, and then with the potential of her connections, I'll say for now, and Agatha, we learn about her really dramatic story. Wow, what an interesting character. Not a good guy,
Oh yeah, and even worse, you find out just even how much worse Agatha is. I don't think that she really redeems herself all that much. Maybe a little towards the end, but yeah,
Yeah.
Even then, I don't think.
you want her to.
It's kind of she is this charming character in a way, but she's also very gruff and standoffish, and she has this horrible reputation. And then we learn why, and we learn the whole story behind her, and maybe there's a bit of redemption there, or there's opportunity for redemption for her in how the story unfolds. But a really interesting journey. Really, it's learning about Agatha's story, and this lady who's how old is she? Was she be like she was back in WandaVision? What we saw, well, we know that her. Okay, are we getting into spoilers right away?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's been over. We're good.
Yeah,
we're good. Yeah,
Let's do it.
Spoil away.
Okay. We're gonna dive in.
Yeah.
But just about the fact that she is, when we watched WandaVision, we got a scene of her when she was, it was in
16?
it was 1670.
Yeah.
Ish. No, actually, it was 1693. So 1693 was when her coven and her mother, included in them, accused her of betrayal and learning things that she wasn't supposed to. And Agatha's pleading with them, saying, I can't help it. Can you help me? If you teach me, maybe I'd know how to deal with this. But they just saw her as bad And she said, I can be good. And her mother said, no, you can't. So holy, that's traumatic just in
Yeah.
itself, right? And at
Yeah.
this point, what she's probably in her, 20 or somewhere around there. So that puts her, 350 some years old, by the time she's in this modern story. And sort of the horror of how she came. That would have been the first occurrence of when she discovered that she can, the witch's power, the life force
Yeah.
of these witches, that she could just absorb it and decimate the witches.
And creating this storyline of the Witch's Road just so she's able to,
The
take all this.
con,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
the
pretty amazing
con of the
story. Yeah.
Witch's Road story song,
Yeah.
and that lured the witches in, and then initially with the help of her son, which we can talk about in a bit there, but
Hmm.
with the lure of luring the witches in and then just taking those, and that would being her survival mechanism for all of these many decades, hundreds of years to get her to where she is. And it certainly it we are led to believe, even before the death of her son, I would say, that she had this relationship with death,
Hmm.
because when her son was born, she's already approaching 60
They
years
know each
old,
other. Yeah. Yeah.
and they know each other. She calls her my love, like she has this relationship with death, and and the reasons why and how she gets there seems to be kind of interesting.
I like the fact that they've now introduced Death to us. That this is another character that, because my first interaction, so to speak, with her was the Infinity Gauntlet. And
Yes.
Thanos's obsession with death.
Yeah, is this that character? Like, I mean, death is death, but does this raise some possibilities? Because I mean, we'll get into rumors and buzzes and things later. But there's this always this chatter of bringing Thanos back and bringing elements of the Infinity struggle back. Would this be something like? Are we going to see this Aubrey Plaza version of death later? Maybe outside of the Agatha sphere and maybe more in the capes and cowls sphere of things.
It's a that's a good question as to what are they up to? Like, did they, because they didn't really get to play that story out
Yeah.
with Thanos. Agatha in this story is playing out the dynamic that they didn't cover in the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet story.
Mm-hmm.
Thanos had this relationship with death,
Hmm.
and was committed and devoted to her, and they had this sort of lover relationship, is the way that it's kind of framed up as. And he was courting her, and that's in the first Avengers movie when Thanos turns and his his sidekick there is saying, to face humanity is to court death. And then
Yeah.
he smiles, and those in the know were like, oh, okay, well, it makes sense, this is Thanos. If you just said courting death, well, you're going to have Thanos's attention. But they never really follow up with that. But it seems like this dynamic here with Agatha, she has this relationship, this courting death relationship. And for whether she had gotten like there's the whole Darkhold angle, right? We know that Agatha, having had the Darkhold all this time, this was how she was hiding from death and the Salem Seven. That original coven of witches of hers, the Salem Seven, including her mother. They were the ones that were coming after her to get even with her. But once the Darkhold was off the table, then then all of a sudden they could find her, and that's how this whole story starts. Suddenly Agatha's on the map again.
Yeah.
You have death, and you have the Salem Seven, and as they were saying, so many, so many other characters that are upset with this con person who, betrayed an awful lot of people, and so she's not well liked, and there were a lot of folks after her.
I want to ask you something, Brent. And this sort of ties into WandaVision. The other witches that they get, the other characters that they introduce to us to join Agatha on the witches' road, were their powers all affected due to WandaVision, or was it something entirely different for each one? That was the only thing I couldn't really pinpoint.
Well, of them, let's see. I don't know that we have any indication that that certain ones were affected by the snap or not, or sorry, the blip,
The hex
Yeah.
or the blip.
But we do know that we find out that Jen, one of them, that it was Agatha herself 100 years ago that had cast the binding spell on her
Yeah.
Yeah.
and kept her power under wraps. So it wasn't Wanda, it was her that had done that. So I don't know that we have any indication that they were directly impacted or not, but they do say that there was all of this time watching, like Agatha herself was watching Wanda, like throughout, for a stretch of time. She was trying to figure her out until it came to the point of Westview, and that whole, like, Agatha had to go to Wanda and say, "Look, how did you do this? This is so powerful. I need to know," because she's power hungry.
Yeah.
How did you do this? And then she went about trying to steal Wanda's power, like she had stolen the power of so many other witches, and failed.
Yeah.
And Wanda put her in her place and left her there in Westview for 3 years.
Yeah.
Where she was stuck in this dream, and until Wanda destroyed the Darkhold, then all of a sudden you have have Death showing up inside the dream. I thought that was a really great scene. What did you guys think of Aubrey Plaza's showing
She's
up?
awesome.
And she's kind of playing along. She's, oh, okay, you want me to play along here? All right, fine.
Yeah.
Let's look at the case.
Yeah.
And she's saying, "Is this really how you see yourself?" And it's really, I thought that was fun for a way for her to kind of introduce herself, and between her and the teen, I guess.
Yeah.
We can call him Billy now.
Yeah, and I loved there's been kind of a bit of a yearning to go back to Westview since the end of WandaVision. So the fact that they obviously it takes place in Westview, so you're gonna see it. But it was I don't know, I found it almost like some nice nostalgia kicking in to see and sort of the adjacent story that was told about William, or Billy, whatever you want to call him, living in Eastview. And I love that episode that got into his history and how the hex kind of just affected him in this way. So it's neat to see the side effects of all of that stuff that happened in season 1 of WandaVision. So it makes me curious to know, because where things left off, it implies that perhaps there's a second season coming along, whether they've announced it or not. And there's been talk of a second season of WandaVision, and sort of how will these will they be related? Will they maybe take those two streams and join them up and kind of make it into a bit of a joint season 2?
Well, we know that we're getting Vision Quest with the White Vision,
Yeah,
for sure. But no, I'm wondering that because
That
I
might be
want to go back now and watch WandaVision now that I've watched Agatha.
or yeah, I
because
guess not
it's
season 2 of WandaVision, but like a continuation of the WandaVision sort. Yeah, with Vision
But
Quest. Yeah,
Wanda, we know at the end of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, right? So it's like, where does Agatha have a hand somewhere down the line with Wanda's return?
Well, yeah, and so the clues that we get in this show, obviously, so she shows up, a body, she's been crushed. It's Wanda Maximoff. The name appears on the little ticket there when she's in the morgue. And we're told that the Darkhold I love that in the library scene where you've got the hole burned in the
Yeah.
section of books where what did they call it? I wrote it down. Dialogue and rhetoric, known history of learning and debate. So this is the book that they had logged in as in the library, which of course the first letters all spell the Darkhold.
Yeah.
And you have this hole burned in this section of books, and that mysterious guy in the background between the library shelves telling her like every copy
Yeah.
was burned. You can't find a copy anymore. So validation that Wanda did what she said she was going to do. And interesting that we see that a hint at, like, well, this is true or not, but that Wanda's body was crushed, or that this woman's body was crushed in because of her time at Mount Wundagore.
Yeah.
So that story is being teased along further. Is Wanda gone, or not? Like this seems to lean a little bit more towards the she's gone. But like you point out, we have Vision Quest, we have the White Vision, and we have this tease of Billy now searching for his brother, and Tommy, and with Agatha's help,
Yeah.
and in an interesting way.
And they have indicated that Elizabeth Olsen has signed a new deal with Marvel to reprise the Scarlet Witch. They're saying it's anywhere from 3 to 4 films. So
Yeah. Now, we're jumping ahead to maybe to
Oh,
Marvel
yeah.
news, but she's not the only one who signed on. And is that telling you, are we going to be seeing like alt versions of these characters that may
yeah.
kind of come together in whatever becomes of the Marvel universe after Secret Wars, or are we seeing the actual that will we see her as that current Scarlet Witch?
So Jamie brings up an interesting question though: is do we know if there's a second season?
Well, we know we're going into this is dovetailing into Vision Quest.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah, okay.
All
So
right.
maybe this is how we loop things in together, right?
Does that, and that doesn't necessarily mean they won't circle back around to further seasons, but it makes sense at this point because WandaVision and that title and the context that they had there to create that show was all, was very of that moment. And then you have Agatha following out of that, we got Agatha's story. We don't need a second season of Agatha per se, because now she's in this dynamic with young Avenger Wiccan, Billy.
Right.
So what they could just pick that character up, that story up another place. But Vision Quest seems like the most logical place for them to pick up the story of, okay, what's happening with Vision. There's connections to his children. There's an awesome very well reputed comic story where Vision goes about creating his own artificial beings family.
That's right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'd almost put money to that's where they were going to try some of that in this Vision Quest series, but that those connections will play out further. Wanda, their kids, Vision, and how he's going to evolve from the more robotic version of himself to perhaps the one that was connected to the Infinity Stones, etc.
I mean, I don't know. Everything seems to be a deliberate thing, whether you find out about it later, years later, even or not. When it comes to how they write people in and out of things. What about Jen? Any significance to her being spared and getting all her powers back, and away she goes? Does she provide any kind of a link back once we move on to maybe another iteration of the story?
Did you see how they flew her off screen?
Yes.
Did that remind you of anyone when
Of
she
course.
did that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they really kind of pointed, really have us leaning towards seeing more of that character, um, moving forward. I think they could easily do that.
With her healing abilities, her potions abilities, like she
Yeah.
certainly has some tools in the kit that could come in useful when it comes to bringing somebody back, making somebody whole again, or whatever you want to call it. But I just thought it was interesting that she just kind of left, and that can't be the end of her story. She seems like a very intriguing character with some history. So
Yeah, they invested a fair bit into her story, didn't they? So
yeah,
I think there's going to be easily more, and certainly the way that she flew off is like, okay, is she
yeah,
replacing Wanda? You know,
right.
in the forthcoming story here over the next few movies,
But the
or
nice thing is, as well, as they can bring back Agatha at any point now that she can just have a pop in, so to speak, because of the way they've finished it with her character.
so now I don't know if you guys ever got a chance to play the Midnight Suns video game for the consoles
No.
for Marvel. But the story essentially of the Midnight Suns um, leans right into this premise that they've left Agatha at. Agatha is at this point in the story, she's a ghost, and you interact with Agatha throughout the video game. I really enjoyed that video game. It was really great.
Okay.
And but you have Agatha as this spirited, she's a spirit character, and because of something that happened in the story. But that's how you know her. So and there's Agatha has often been kind of one of those characters where she's like a Doctor Strange, or like she's one of those characters that you would go to for knowledge, and she's just there in the background and sometimes plays a part of things, but she has that kind of a character. So are they leaning into that? They are. It seems to me that they're leaning right into that. It's like, okay, let's take Agatha from this part of her story where she's actually a spirit helping out characters, and let's go there. So
Yeah.
they clearly pointed us in that direction with Billy Maximoff, Wiccan, and her seemingly having this bit of a team up. Now, is that they've been rumoring of a Midnight Suns project for Marvel for quite a few years now.
I know
Uh,
you were hoping at one point that they were going to introduce this into this series here.
I was, and is this enough of a? It's not exactly a whole
Yeah.
hint, but it certainly could be a story beat that points us in the direction of the Midnight Suns. And if they do Midnight Suns, it would certainly be a point where Agatha and Wiccan and Jen and these characters could show up in combination with the likes of Blade, Ghost Rider, those various characters that are part of the Midnight Suns. They could have a lot of fun, kind of, pulling something together from the story beats that they've got so far.
I'm curious, Brent, with this one here is one of the other things they alluded to, and there was a lot of rumor and innuendo flying around with this series when it was airing episode after episode. There's one major character that we've never been introduced to yet in the Marvel Universe who's quite powerful, and I'm wondering if you expect somewhere down the line that this will happen within this series or the Midnight Suns, and obviously I'm referring to Mephisto, because a lot of people thought
Yeah.
he was going to appear in this series in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So we have there are some hints to some other. They haven't really nailed down with full clarity certain details about the past of this story. Um, in the acronym uh, for the Darkhold, they had by Andrew Ugo, and
Yes.
so Andrew Ugo, it's like, I'm okay, like, is that is that an acronym, or is that like sort of a mixed up letters for Mephisto? Quick, nope, it's not. So how does it? Who is that referring to? And I haven't spent any time trying to decipher that more than they were really on the nose about by Andrew Ugo. Okay, who's that? Is that hinting to something more? 100% it's hinting to something
Mm.
more.
Yeah.
Are there other characters that are involved here? I mean, we got obviously Death, and I really enjoyed the portrayal of Lady Death
I did too.
in
Yeah.
this. Uh, Even the notion, where they're still on the Witch's Road. The Witch's Road, which, as we've learned, was created by um, the reality altering powers of Billy, inherited from his mom.
Mhm.
This is a Wanda style thing, right? And so
Yeah.
you have Billy, it was him, his power manifested the actual Witch's Road, which threw Agatha off because it had
Yeah.
been just a ruse all this
Yeah.
time, and all of a sudden it's real. So she was kind of playing along, trying to see where this was going the whole time too. And we don't find out as the audience until a little bit later, um, but the
So
notion.
that begs the question then, the original 7, when they were showing up there, because I love that scene where he's looking out the window and he can see them pop up in the street and he just bolts downstairs, right? Were they there for him? Were they there for Agatha?
They were there for Agatha.
They
Okay.
were. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, Lady Death was also there for Agatha because she had been on her hit list for hundreds of years, and it was fun to see Agatha too, just sort of continue to con Lady
Yeah.
Death
Yeah.
throughout this process, just sort of trying to sway her and working and
Yeah.
and buying herself more time.
It seems like they seem to thrive on that
Yeah.
repartee. Even.
Yeah.
I do have some breaking news from the internet. Andrew Ugo is an anagram of Wundagore.
There. Okay.
So there you go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mystery
Hey,
solved.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Yes, good stuff. So perfect. Now we know that the elder god Chthon, or Chthon, depending on how I grew up reading it as Chthon.
Right.
Comic readers often get themselves reading a word, and that's how it is in their head, and then
Yeah.
many years later find out that the author meant it to sound some way slightly different. But anyway, so Chthon is this elder god who wrote the Darkhold. So here we have by Wundagore. So that's great. That's really cool. Because it did not scramble to say Chthon.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought it up because it wasn't that I dismissed it, but there was just a lot going on.
Yes.
Plus I had Witch's Road going in my head the entire time I watched the entire show. Just like singing it in my head like for like a month. So yeah, interesting. I again, every decision is a deliberate one, especially in a series like this where it's all about dropping hints and innuendo and
setting other things up, really,
and
for down
setting.
the road.
What did everybody think of the musical element? And there was some that leaned into some serious hard themes like Wizard of Oz and some Disney witches. And how did that? How did you feel that helped out with the storytelling?
I almost felt like it was because I don't think they had. I think they had a plan what they wanted to do with Agatha. I think they were sort of skeptical as to how well it was going to do. So it's like, okay, let's just throw everything at it. And I think I enjoyed that more. I was skeptical watching this, going, what are we going to get out of this? And boy, we got a lot for a 1-season show.
Yeah. And deliberate casting of people that can sing, like Patti LuPone. Come on.
Yep.
So like clearly I do think that there was I mean it's based on a ballad, so obviously you want to have some people that have some singing chops. I did notice that they cut away a lot from Aubrey Plaza's drumming. I was like, is she really playing? Come on. There's some fills in there. Every time there was a fill, it was camera away. So, but other than that, it was a fairly like musical and lively production. It was almost like generations of different looks and feels, and they added those elements in. And I thought that was interesting, an interesting way of telling the story. Is that, do you think it was just unique to this particular, like, is it a WandaVision, I guess? Is it kind of like, how WandaVision went through the eras? Do you think that they tried to sort of map
They did that a bit as well with each challenge. It
Well,
was
that's
a
what I
different
mean. Yeah,
decade, right? And I
yeah.
like
Well,
that.
and so same thing with WandaVision. It kind of went through a different aesthetic, right? So, and they seem to have done the same thing with the Witches Road and the 4 or 5 trials they went through. Hey, this is Jamie,
And this is Ryan.
and we're the recap sequence.
Be sure to tune in to us every Wednesday night on CHSR 97.9 FM. We're online at chsrfm.ca at 7 p.m. Atlantic, 6 p.m. Eastern.
And if you don't catch us live, you can catch our podcast on Spotify, on Amazon, anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. And we also have a YouTube channel you may have been watching. And if not, you should be. Catch us on YouTube at Recap Sequence. So
And subscribe.
subscribe. Yeah, please.
I think, yeah, and they found the writers found a fun story way to have that make sense in Billy's room in episode
Yes.
8 at
Yeah.
the end,
Yeah,
where
that's awesome.
he's
Yeah.
he's looking around and this is what helped him recognize that, wait a second, I did this
Yeah.
because of all of the paraphernalia and the collectibles and all the things in his room, and he's like, he notices all of the witches, all of the visual things that we saw on the
Yeah.
witches road, and they used that in the story to kind of indicate and help the audience know, oh my goodness, it was him, he did it,
Yeah.
we're discovering it at the same time as that he's discovering that he's the cause of it.
And he's more integrated in the magic as they
Yeah.
travel down the road. Like I love when they finally got to the point where they're with where the tarot had to happen and the swords, and he's Maleficent. I like, okay, like
Yeah.
now you're a witch. Like now we're looking at you like a witch. The other points, like they certainly had him done up in this in outfits and stuff. But this was like, okay, I'm seeing you now as a witch with some serious gravitas, I guess.
Yeah.
Now, whether that I think too that it was also part of their just approach to for the writers. Let's have all of this witch imagery.
Yes.
Look at
Yeah.
the opening crawl there, the various visuals that they kind of played into. You're seeing the witch from Snow White. You're seeing
Yeah.
you're seing all of these visual, and again,
Disney.
TV. They have access to
Yeah.
Disney stuff, so they get to
Yeah.
do all that. But they get to play into this notion of popular culture, notions of witches, and in movies and excuse me, and things like that, so that the audience who is coming in at the beginning of this story, not really going to know per se what's going on,
Yeah.
but they have the allure of the things that they do know. They're advertising the show as being, this is a show about witches, and they're leaning into all of the
Yeah.
the marketing visuals that they can to help sell the context of this as they weave the audience along with the story.
I thought it was clever writing with the when they were going over the sort of the autopsy of the body and being crushed by like it was very much kind of a parallel of, obviously it was the Wundagore, but it was also a little bit of reminiscent of the house falling on the Wicked Witch of the East in Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
It kind of gave that. So yeah, I was immediately in that Wizard of Oz kind of mindset, and the Witch's Road was very much, it wasn't yellow brick, but it
absolutely.
was whatever lavender leaf or whatever they were hopping along on. And there was one point too, just where when Death showed up and she did the little skip. I don't know if you noticed that when she kind of joined the coven, I guess, officially, and she led out doing the kind of the Wizard of Oz skip down the road and stuff. So I really liked all of those little references that they've put in there. I thought that was it kept you connected to that aspect of it. You're not thinking of this as a Marvel a thing so much as it's a story about witches. They definitely leaned into all the metaphors and tropes for sure.
Yeah. One thing as well, I want because I want to move on to a couple things here, but we've always commented anytime we've talked to Brent about casting decisions for everything, and Catherine Hahn was you really don't appreciate how good she was, I think, as much in WandaVision as you do until you see her as in Agatha All Along. She was just brilliant, and I mean that's reflective now. She was nominated for a Golden Globe for best performance by a female actor in a television series, musical, or comedy. And she was just amazing. And again, it's one of those, I want more Catherine Hahn, I want more Agatha somewhere down the road.
Well, I think that she had a very interesting challenge with this with the character because at times she is a character who is not acting like her genuine inner
Mhm.
self. She's a very protected character. She has this, she's dealing with the death of her son and how that came about, and that's really affected her. And so her outward personality is not, is a different character than the inner Agatha. Then you have on top of that this character who is then playing other characters in the Westview story, like
Yeah,
like the cop. Her
I love that.
her role like is very, it's very forced, right? Like it's very like she's doing that,
Yes.
but her portrayal of that character um is a very sort of a
It's
forced
put on,
push.
you can
It's put
tell.
on,
Yeah.
You can tell,
it's,
and
yeah,
there's a
she's
self-awareness that you see as she's doing it, especially
yeah,
when Rio shows up and she's kind of trying to figure out what she's getting at. But yeah, like you can really kind of feel, and it's not a bad acting. It's
exactly,
a great acting is what it is. It's like
exactly,
it's
yes,
hard to pretend that you're pretending, and so like
yes.
she really, but you see that, and she
Yeah.
really pulls that off well. And I loved it. I would love to. I'd watch that cop show.
So
By
would
the
I.
way, I would. Agnes,
Yeah.
Agnes All Along.
PI. Yeah,
I love what you're saying there about these characters being, they're in this strange situation, and Rio, uh oh, I'm on the yellow brick road, and
yeah,
it's sort of here and she's just playing along
yeah,
the
Yep.
whole time.
yeah.
And and the final reveal of her once they went showing her face when she
Oh, his
turns
death.
and you as death, oh, that
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
awesome. To
yeah,
me that was, oh, that's a powerful image. And she told Billy that he could go, but that was like, oh, that is a strong way to have this character introduced into the Marvel universe now, to be able to do more with her. So sort of maybe building on your point there, I think Aubrey Plaza's death was really well portrayed too, and I really quite enjoyed her take, because she, having fun
yeah,
as Death, been around
It
for
doesn't sound right.
yeah,
millennia,
yeah,
but just this character wandering around and doing her job, as she puts it, you know, but at the same time can kind of take the seriousness out of things, because she's just, she's eternal,
yeah,
and is just looking for entertainment. And I think that it's really interesting how it, this relationship that those two characters had, there was
yeah,
something going on there, and we could probably get a whole lot more story
I think
about
it's
that
just
actual relationship, what
it's
happened with
sure.
them.
it's general respect because Agatha has been able to evade death for so long.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
every chance she's gotten is she's either
But it's a
she's
game.
conned her exactly,
It's,
and
she
death
said,
is enjoying this.
don't you want me to have my powers? Don't you want this to be not even a fair fight, but don't you want this to be, what we do? And at this dance essentially. And I thought that was fun. There's a secret part of me that would really love to see, Peter Quill and just cross paths as a Parks and Rec fan,
Oh,
to see a little April and Andy.
hey,
Um,
you never know when you could get that, but I think well, we wouldn't get it right now, but who knows, because we're recording this on December 14th.
yes,
8 days from now, What If season 3. That's where they could have the fun and do the death
interesting.
Peter Quill crossover,
Yeah.
right? If you ever wanted to to tease that.
Sure.
But I get it as
There's
well with the
always
Parks and Recreation, right?
there's always a platform to put whatever. That's the great thing about what Marvel's done with everything is you've got a multiverse and a what if, so anything goes at all times. You can tell all these stories, so that's pretty awesome too.
Because I was joking when I said this, we're warming up for a Brent thing, but I was looking at it as like we literally could do January, February, March, skip April, May, June, July, August, September, all with Brent at least once a month because
Or twice because we really may need to do some arc recaps and precaps next year because we've got some significant ground. We've got a whole phase that we haven't really gone into, and I certainly would love to circle back to Tony and kind of with the Doctor Doom news and some of this other stuff. And I mean, I guess we're jumping into some conjecture as well for like other Marvel stuff. But I read this morning about Chris Evans potentially signing on to be Nomad, but kind of a more nomad.
But I've
than
also heard
that
Captain
was teased.
Hydra.
I heard that was.
What's fact? What's fiction,
Yeah,
Brent?
okay, here we go.
What's fact is that Chris Evans is coming back.
There we go.
Okay.
Good enough. Yeah.
What exactly what context he'll be coming at, I wouldn't put too much. It's hard to say just yet.
Yeah.
But we also just got word that Haley Atwell.
Yes, I saw
back.
that this morning.
So that's interesting. And again, they could do all kinds of things with that.
Are we getting Agent Carter or are we getting Captain Carter?
Right. Or just Peggy. Like, will we be getting Peggy Carter? Yeah, Agent Carter. Will we be seeing them at different eras? We have to wait and see what Secret Wars is going to be, because Secret Wars, if they're doing Battle World, if they are doing that aspect of Secret Wars, then we are going to have the potential of collections or bits and pieces of all kinds of different universes in the multiverse, all kinds of different scenarios. That could be when you're in Battle World, if you're looking at the Hickman Battle World, where it was actually, it was like that in the original Secret Wars 2, it was pieces of worlds all brought together onto this one world. But the way that I think they are looking at they do it universally, you could have different multiverses. We know we're going to connect to the Fantastic Four coming up here. We know that there's going to be some connection. We know that they're dealing with the convergences of universes, and that can be destructive. We saw that in Multiverse of Madness, and that all leads, if we follow Hickman's version of the story, that all leads right to this the main Secret Wars, where there's a collision and a destruction of the universe, and and how that all comes around together with big players like Robert Downey Jr.'s Doctor Doom.
Right, and so they've also I like things like Fantastic Four. There's been a lot of comments on the aesthetic of being kind of set in an earlier time. It's more going for that '60s look. Like, could it be? Again, are we looking at a different universe version of this? And why do we have a Robert Downey Jr. as Doom? Like, there's again, it's this whole introduction of the multiverse of madness and Loki, even like these timelines, these branchings, and
I mean, there's rumors flying Loki's going to reappear in a couple of upcoming. We don't know what.
So who knows who Chris Evans is going to be at this point?
I mean,
it all hinges on what story are they telling, and up until we start to get that story, it's all guesses.
Does he say flame on or assemble? I think is that I think that's where we are, right? Or is he somebody completely different? Maybe he's another Doctor Doom. Wouldn't that be awful? But you know what I mean? Like there's just all kinds of room for. That's the thing, that there's so many stories that they could bring into this because of the multiverse in the comics. They could really. I can see why people just running wild with casting announcements.
Well, there's not only that. There's also Denzel Washington has now been cast in Black Panther 3.
He oopsed that one.
He really did, and now he's publicly gone ahead and apologized and said he called the director up and apologized. Brent, what do you there's reports out there Captain America 4 and Thunderbolts are getting rave reviews from the early stuff they're seeing. Does this bode well for 2025 for the Marvel film side?
Well, certainly there have been multiple screenings within their family showings, as they think they call them. Their close knit groups, and there have been times when the feedback coming out for the movies hasn't been as glowing. And then they went back and they would reshoot, and so they've been doing work on these. They've been
Hmm.
working on these films, refining them, getting them to the point where they're getting the reaction they want, and it's they're creating the features that they want, and so now it's we're getting close, so we know that we're going to be getting this soon. We get to see what exactly they did, and get to appreciate it.
Here's the lineup of confirmed dates so far. And this is why I say Brent's pretty on every month, pretty much. January 29th, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series, is going to be released on Disney+. February 14th, Captain America Brave New World. March 4th, Daredevil Born Again. May 2nd, Thunderbolts. June 24th, Ironheart. July 25th, The Fantastic Four First Steps. Eyes of Wakanda, which is a Disney Plus series, going to start airing on August 6th. Marvel's Zombies, October 3rd. And then not announced date yet, but it's going to be December's Wonder Man.
Hmm.
So that's an interesting mix. 3 movies and a couple of animated series and then live action series.
Yeah, and and we can't underestimate like the impact that like a Daredevil, like what
Oh.
Born Again could do, right?
Yeah.
It could have as serious of impacts on the story as any of this stuff. So yeah, like there, and those that's a full year, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
all COVID and all of the things that happened sort of forced, crammed things into this, the re-engineering of a lot of these projects by, by Disney, and to get them to where they needed to be, to not be divisive, to be, entertaining for the general audience and make everyone happy. So now that all got forced into this one year. They told us that we're going to be doing less moving forward.
Yeah, nice job.
That's what they
Like-
told us just like, a year or so
April
ago.
1st, 2024.
Yeah.
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 And now so 2025 is going to be like, okay, if any concerns that they might have had about oversaturation, well, we're going to be in that boat again with after 2025. So maybe the proof will be in the pudding, and they will see that there's lots of positive, if they stick the landing on all of these, and they can come away with positive audience reaction and engagement for all of these projects, then they'll be in okay shape for 2026 and beyond, without any negative repercussions. I don't think that it wasn't really the amount of content, in my opinion, in the first place.
You think it was the content they were
it
airing?
was what they were doing with
Yeah.
the content,
Yeah.
and they were doing it in a way to be that wasn't going to work fully for their broad audience, right? So I think that they had done some things that anyway. So now they're on track, and the hope is that everything will hit the right way, and then we'll have a solid 2025 with all kinds of Marvel to talk about, and have excitement build about it moving into 2026 and 2027 with those big movies, like looking forward to seeing Robert Downey Jr.'s Doom. I would expect when
Do we
see
get Doom
Fantastic
next summer?
Four, I think
Yeah.
so. That's exactly where I was going. Like I think they have to, because you need to have Doom established before all of a sudden you're doing, the big power plays. Doom is a power player, but if he hasn't been the X-Men's nemesis for decades, it just loses some of that, impact. Who's this guy out of nowhere? Doctor Doom. Who's this? they really need to. They've got their work cut out for them, I believe, to really get him established as, historically, because it's in the 60s. Maybe they get to do that. They get to kind of flash through a number of, like, the history of the Fantastic Four, and they can
Yeah.
establish Doom as having played a part in a fair bit of their story, and maybe use that to kind of have him integrated
And
nicely.
and to, I guess, to further disassociate from the Kang storyline, it really
But
it
there's
doesn't enter the conversation.
true, but now there's reports that are coming out that Marvel is now working with Jonathan Majors
Yeah,
again. I
yeah,
saw that the other day.
but it's a tough one to, like, from a, if you're at from the fourth wall, I guess, it's a tough one to come back around to when you. So I'll be curious how they
Yeah.
how they successfully loop that back in. It's there's it's certainly a blip in the timeline, if as far as, or a bump in the road. So that'll be an interesting one to see how they balance that out, because it seemed like the introduction of Robert Downey Jr. as Doom was a bit of an like a counterweight to what was going on, almost like a bludgeoning of, here we got something for you.
But it's like we
Look
said
away.
to Brent the last time, though, is they probably did that to misdirect us from the fact that they never actually fired Jonathan Majors.
Nope.
They just sort of pushed him into the background and said, we're going to let this
Play
slowly
it out.
just burn out. And then we're going to, I mean, literally, look what they're doing. They're going to flood us with everything next year,
Mhm.
so that if they do decide in 2026 or even 2027, hey, we're bringing Kang back, all of a sudden, we're in the mindset, today's generation, they're in the mindset of it's now. Forget what happened in the past.
Well, and I mean, the thing is, whenever they bring Kang back, they don't have to go through the process of
No.
establishing Kang. It's been done, and you need only look back to last year, really.
We just have to remember that Ant-Man beat Kang.
Well,
I'm
Well, and they
wondering,
did that on purpose, of
Yeah.
course,
Right.
too, right? Like,
Yeah.
they did that
Yeah.
on purpose to pause if they had to, which is, it's when the real world stuff affects the story, it's so sad.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's how they kind of did it, and you're right. They played that, like, and they have historically done that. They've, like, oh, there is a there's a bad vibe around this, and this, we do not want to have this negativity being
Mhm.
associated with our brand.
Yep.
So we have to create some distance, and it's so unfortunate because now, and then with Jonathan Majors, having the charges dropped, you know
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like, so all of a sudden, for all of that sorry drama for what seemed like nothing, now, well,
Mhm.
now, and Marvel can effectively say, okay,
Yeah.
all right, so now that the negativity, that they let that play out, and it's gone. Once it's gone enough, and then they can have him back, and I really hope they do, because they invested so much
yeah,
Oh yeah.
story
I agree.
into
Yeah.
him. So I think that they should have him back as Kang, and it's for Secret Wars, and I will look forward to that, and I hope that they find a way so that when you're years from now, and you're looking back and playing through the series, you're not losing what they had set up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
For yeah.
We look, and I mean, it's not the first time that there has been something come up with a cast, and they weathered through. There was a Jeremy Renner controversy
Yeah.
years back. They weathered it. I mean, he did a lot to rebuild his
Yeah, he had
image,
to get run over.
including running himself over with an Arctic snowcat, and then growing his bones back. So people go through things, and life goes on, and the public is along for the ride. It's the danger of all this open media
Yeah.
and social media and access to just say whatever you want and run with whatever, and trending is dangerous as well. Things that become trendy don't become
Mhm.
trendy necessarily for the right reasons. The wrong amplifiers happen. So it's a really tough climate to navigate when it comes to promoting something as big as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because there are haters out there. There are people that are just looking to run the negative, and there are certainly platforms and people with lots of reach that can really kind of derail a marketing and otherwise focus on specific things that are none of our business sometimes.
Well, and the other thing is, and I want to bring this up, there's two quick things I just want to bring up here is I also get the sense that Marvel's not front loading, but they're hitting us with a lot of stuff next year because Warner Brothers is starting the James Gunn run next year with Superman as well, and the trailer is supposed to release sometime, I believe, this week for that. They just came off a very successful run with the Penguin, and maybe they're going to build off this. I don't know. But Brent, I one other thing I wanted to ask you here is, what if the final season airs December 22nd? Is there a possibility we get a Doom teaser in there as a sort of an introduction to the Doctor Doom character? I know you're excited because you think you see hints of the Trial of the Watcher in there as well.
Yeah. So the Reckoning War and that comic series, that's fairly recent, and that they were able to play into some of this stuff with the Watcher. That's really kind of fun too. So I think that they are doing something with that, and that Uatu's story. If we've spoken about that in our chats, and the idea that he can be put on trial for breaking the rules, for of the Watchers. I think that could play a strong part because of what's happened in the What If episode so far. He's gotten involved and done his usual Uatu oops.
Yeah.
He cared too much. He got attached to humanity, and to the point where he's been kind of sneaking some support. Here, Reed. Here, I'm not looking, but here's some technology that will help you save the Earth. That kind of stuff. For decades.
Yeah.
This could be fun in how they play that out.
I love that, like, no matter what level you are in the Marvel universe, no matter how powerful, how big, you're always accountable to something else that's bigger, and it just gets bigger and like to the point where you almost can't comprehend it, which is almost the madness what is it, that existential dread, Cthulhuism, whatever. Like it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But I love that everybody is accountable somewhere. There's nobody that can just kind of just get away with it, and no matter what the big bad is, whether the villains are defeated by the heroes, sometimes the villains are defeated by bigger villains too, or heroes are reckoned brought to reckon by bigger heroes. So it can get as big as they need it to get, or we can have a very focused story like the Agatha story where we're not really dealing with much of that. I mean, Darkhold's a pretty big deal, but
and I think that's a great, that hints at a lot of things. But look at what they were going to do with Spider-Man 4. There's been some rumors there about that story kind of going to something bigger instead of and my hope is that they still manage to find a way, because they were teasing us with, as far as Spider-Man, Sony and Marvel partnership, but Marvel making those individual Spider-Man films. Well, we were teased with a Peter Parker that was going to be kind of like a comics Peter Parker from sort of the earlier decades, where he's a kid in New York. No one knows who he is, and he's just going to be Spider-Man. And he's going to be kind of like the Spider-Man that we saw in the original Spider-Man movies. Yep. Are we still going to get that? They have to deal with it somehow. But I think that there's some play there with the last Spider-Man movies. Like, they grow, and now the last one was so huge. That there's all this rumor going on about we'll get Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back, or there's all kinds of discussion. We don't really know.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting too that Doctor Strange essentially put the same kind of spell on Peter, or like the
on everyone else,
on everybody else. Like the same ideas as what Billy you don't know who he is. Different in a way, but everybody forgets. Lily immediately forgot after putting the sigil on. So it's kind of almost the same principle. So I'm curious too. I mean, there could be something to that. Like how do they move on from everybody forgetting who Peter is? I mean, I mean, not everybody. There's one or two people that know.
That's that big cork board they've got in the Disney studio where they've got all their strings lined up, and Kevin Feige's going, "All right, let's make the puppets dance."
Exactly. Yeah. Look, I think we're at time. But I mean, certainly not at.
This is not the last time
at
we're talking to
capacity.
Brent now.
Yeah, got plenty to go. Brent, look, this is just your warning. 2025, we're coming for you. It was a light year for you, but don't get too comfortable because we've lots to schedule in the new year.
Thank you for being a part of 2024
Yes,
with us.
100%.
This was a lot of fun, and we look forward to this and East Coast Comic Expo with you guys next year.
Yeah.
Hey, awesome guys. Yeah, we're going to make up for it. I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm ready.
Good.
So
I'd love to circle back on the Loblaws cards as well. I have all but 6, but I also have a stack of doubles that's bigger than my stack of others. So we should really close that loop and maybe see if we can get a game going.
Yes. Okay. Right on. Yeah. Listen, Merry Christmas to you guys and happy holidays. And, I'm looking forward to chatting some fun, positive Marvel over the course of 2025 with you guys.
Agreed.
You bet, man. Thanks so much. And same to you. Happy,
all the best to you and the family.
Happy New Year as well. And don't get too comfy. We'll be in touch in early January for sure. All right. See you, Brent.
Right.
See you, Brent.
See you guys.